The world is reduced to sound. Inside the cramped, insulated transmission hut, the only reality is the crackle of the vacuum tubes and the Morse key's sharp, metallic heartbeat under his finger. The Nightingale's eyes are closed in concentration. He is not in a frozen Leningrad attic. He is a ghost in the wires, dancing on a tightrope of invisible waves. His messages are lifelines, coordinates for a partisan drop, strength reports for a factory battalion. Each burst of code is a whispered secret in the ear of the motherland, a defiance against the siege. His hand stops mid-sentence. A new sound enters his headphones. Not static, not distant interference. It is a faint, almost imperceptible hum, a carrier wave bleeding into the edge of his frequency. A ghost in the machine with him. His eyes snap open. He knows this sound. It is the sound of a German direction-finding receiver locking onto his signal, a spectral predator circling in the electronic darkness. He accelerates, his fingers a blur, slamming out the final group of codes. The warning. He must finish. The hum grows louder, more defined. He can almost feel the crosshairs tightening, not from one direction, but from two, then three. They are triangulating him in real time. It is not a hunt anymore. It is a surgical closure. He tears the headphones off. The silence in the attic is now more deafening than any explosion. He moves with practiced, desperate speed. He smashes the transmitter's central valve with a hammer, pours acid over the cipher pads, and stuffs the burning papers into a stove. The orange flame licks the hollow of his face. He does not run for the door. They are already at the doors, the heavy boots thundering on the stairs. He runs to the small, grimy window, facing the inner courtyard. His last act is not to fight, but to observe. As the door splinters, he sees them. On the rooftop opposite, a dark silhouette against the gloom, adjusting the angle of a complex antenna array. It is not a truck. It is a fixed, hidden post. They have been mapping the city not by roaming vans, but by a silent static web. He was not caught by a mobile hunter. He was pinpointed by a spider that had already spun its web. The door explodes inward. The scene cuts. Oberstleutnant Karl Vogt stands in the ravaged attic 20 minutes later. The air stinks of ozone, burnt paper, and acid. His men present him with the charred remains. Vogt ignores the debris. He walks to the window, the same window the Nightingale used. He looks across to the opposite rooftop, where his technician is already packing the antenna. A small, satisfied nod. The system works. The logic is beautiful. Pinpoint, isolate, eradicate. He picks up a single unburnt item from the floor, a child's drawing, likely the operator's, of a bird on a telegraph wire. The Nightingale. Vogt carefully places it in his leather dossier. Another red pin on his map in the warm bunker. Another silence secured. But back in his bunker, under the serene hum of his own receivers, Vogt feels a disquiet. The report is perfect. Yet the sequence was too fast. The operator's destruction was too complete, too methodological. It lacked the panic of a cornered animal. It felt like a protocol. And nature, Vogt knows, abhors a vacuum. Who will fill this new silence? Across the city, in a waterlogged basement that smells of damp rot and rat droppings, the silence is a physical weight. Maria stares at the dead radio. The scheduled contact time has come and gone. 5 minutes, 10, an eternity. The static from the speaker is a mockery. Yuri, the young courier, compulsively cracks his knuckles, the sound like pistol shots in the quiet. He keeps looking at the ceiling as if expecting boots. They have no way to know what happened. Only the absence. The absence is a void that swallows hope. The messenger who finds them is a boy of no more than 12, face gray with hunger and soot. He says nothing, just pushes a single matchbox into Maria's hand and vanishes into the labyrinth of ruins. Inside the matchbox, a microfilm strip. The decoded message is a clinical obituary. Nightingale compromised, network exposed, cease all activity, await asset graph. He is your new instrument. Comply without question. Maria feels a cold fury. An instrument, another piece to be broken. She looks at Yuri's young, terrified face. They are not a network. They are a target. 3 nights later, during a blackout so complete the city seems to have been erased from the earth, he arrives. Leonid Guriev materializes from the shadows of the basement entrance like a part of them. He is tall, gaunt, a specter in a worn-out engineer's coat. His arrival is silent, but his presence immediately changes the pressure in the room. He does not greet them. His pale, water-clear eyes perform an immediate and thorough inventory of the space. The moisture patterns on the brick, the resonance of the ceiling, the single weak shaft of moonlight from a crack in the ceiling. He ignores Maria's offered hand. He places his heavy suitcase on the makeshift table. It lands with a solid, dense thud that speaks of contained weight. Yuri, desperate for a sign of salvation, cannot contain himself. He gestures wildly at the case. Is it a new radio? A better transmitter? Can they fight back? Guriev turns his gaze to Yuri. The gaze is not unkind, but utterly dissecting, as if measuring the young man's wavelength and finding interference. He speaks, and his voice is a dry, papery rustle, the sound of blueprints being unfurled. The Germans have won the war of sound, he states. Their ears are better than ours. Their technology is a perfect filter. To transmit is to die. The Nightingale did not make a mistake. He participated in a system designed to kill him. He unlatches the suitcase. The click echoes. He opens the lid. There is no radio. Instead, there is a meticulously ordered chaos of an alternate reality. Rolls of architectural schematics of the city's rooftops and sightlines. A treatise on photometrics and lighthouse signaling. Several small, precisely ground mirrors wrapped in felt. A collection of common urban debris, a pane of glass blackened on one side, a hinged metal shutter from a ventilation duct, spools of black thread, a surveyor's level, a set of brass gauges. He picks up the blackened pane. He does not hold it up to the light. Instead, he walks to the crack of moonlight and places the pane over it. The light is utterly consumed. He then, with a precise movement of a fingernail, scrapes a single hair-thin line of the soot away. A needle-thin beam of moonlight now pierces the darkness, striking a specific point on the far wall. He speaks to the beam of light, not to them. They are listening. So we will not speak. They are triangulating signals. So we will send none. Their entire world is the electronic spectrum. Our world. He turns, his silhouette blocking the weak light, his face in shadow. Our world is the city itself. Every brick, every window, every angle of roof. We will not send a message. We will become a message. We will turn Leningrad into a giant cryptographic machine, and they will be staring at the keys, deaf to the silence. In his bunker, Vogt studies the child's drawing of the bird. He feels the first cold trickle of professional doubt. The silence from the nightingale's frequency is now absolute. But a new kind of silence is forming, a deliberate one. He does not know its shape yet. He only knows, with chilling certainty, that the war in the shadows has just changed its grammar. The lesson begins in the graveyard of machines. Guriev leads Maria and a still skeptical Yuri through a shattered factory district at dawn. The air is sharp with the smell of frost and rust. He does not speak. He observes. His eyes are not scanning for threats, but for geometry, for angles, for the play of weak winter light on broken surfaces. He stops before the skeleton of a locomotive workshop. Its vast, blown-out windows are like the empty eye sockets of a skull. He points, not at the building, but at a specific, jagged pane of glass still clinging to a top-floor frame. The rising sun, pale and anemic, strikes it at a low angle. For a brief 10-minute window each morning, that pane becomes a blinding, piercing beacon, a natural recurring signal, unregistered by any radio log. He calls it a fixed point, a landmark in the landscape of light. This is the first rule of his new grammar. The city is not a hiding place. It is an alphabet. Their first operational base is not a traditional safe house. It is an optical instrument. Guriev chooses a fifth-floor apartment in a bullet-scarred building on Vasilyevsky Island. Its value is not in its secrecy, but in its unparalleled, panoramic view of 5 key intersections and the FA-aids of 2 strategic German administration buildings. The apartment is empty, frozen, dust dancing in the slatted light from boarded windows. Guriev immediately goes to work, not on a radio, but on the windows themselves. Maria and Yuri watch, baffled, as he transforms the space into a laboratory of shadows. Using his brass gauges and the surveyor's level, he measures the exact angles of sunlight at 8 a.m., 12 p.m., and 4 p.m. On one boarded window, he meticulously drills a series of 7 small, almost invisible holes in a seemingly random pattern. From the outside, it is damage. From the inside, with the board slightly adjusted, the 7 pinpricks of light form a perfect, tiny reproduction of the Big Dipper on the opposite wall. This is the second rule. Information is not transmitted. It is displayed. It exists only from a single, specific vantage point. He demonstrates the first dead drop. It is not a hollowed-out brick or a buried container. It is a state of being. He takes Yuri to a specific bridge over the frozen Griboyedov Canal. He points to a particular cast-iron rivet on the underside of the arch, level with the ice. The rivet is caked in ordinary grime. Guriev produces a small syringe filled not with ink, but with a thin, clear solvent. He applies a single drop to the center of the rivet. The grime dissolves in a perfect, microscopic circle, revealing the bright, clean metal beneath. A star in the soot, visible only to someone lying on the ice, looking directly up at that exact spot. A binary signal. Clean means safe. Dirty means compromised. It leaves no physical object to be found. It is merely a change in the environment. Maria's skepticism is a hard, cold stone in her stomach. This is not war. This is academia. It is fragile, slow, dependent on 1,000 variables of weather and luck. She voices this, her tone sharp with the memory of the nightingale's fate. A radio signal is instant. This is a sculpture. What if the sun doesn't shine? What if the Germans simply paint over the rivet? Guriev turns his calm, unsettling gaze on her. He asks her to describe the exact route she took to the food distribution point 3 days prior. She does, confused. He then corrects her. She passed a blue door with a new propaganda poster. The poster was torn at the lower left corner. That morning, it was intact. The tear was a signal from a watcher on the line, indicating a new informant was present. She walked right past it. She saw, but she did not observe. The Germans, he explains, are listening. Their entire apparatus is tuned to the auditory. They are deaf to the visual noise. Our strength is that we live in this visual noise. We will weaponize the background. The poster tear, the position of a broken window sash, the specific arrangement of 3 bricks missing from a chimney stack. These are our words. They will be searching the symphony for a single violin. We will not be the violin. We will be the silence between the notes. He assigns roles. Yuri, with his youth and agility, becomes the setter. His job is to move through the city, not as a courier with messages, but as a stagehand. Applying the solvent to the rivet, adjusting the hinged ventilation shutter on a specified roof by precisely 3 centimeters, placing a particular piece of reflective debris, a shard of a mirror from a bombed-out perfume shop, on a specific window ledge. His actions are meaningless, invisible work, maintenance of the city's decay. Maria is the reader. Guriev trains her to see. He takes her to a vantage point overlooking a busy German checkpoint. He does not let her count soldiers or trucks. He makes her memorize the pattern of shadows the checkpoint booth casts on the snow at different times. He shows her how the lengthening of a particular shadow, caused by the repositioning of a sandbag by just a few inches, can indicate a change in the guard rotation or the presence of an officer. She learns to read the city like a living map, where every alteration, no matter how mundane, is a potential syllable in a sentence. Meanwhile, in the warmth of his bunker, Oberstleutnant Vogt is growing restless. The map is static. The red pins are not multiplying as they should. His operators report a disturbing trend, a complete cessation of traditional partisan radio traffic in the central sectors. It is not the quiet of defeat. It is the quiet of a held breath. His intelligence reports mention increased partisan activity, supply drops intercepted, patrols ambushed with precise timing. The information is flowing, but the medium is invisible. Vogt cancels his leave. He orders a shift in analysis. He demands all civilian incident reports, vandalism, petty theft, municipal repairs. He is looking for a pattern in the chaos, a signal in the human static. He feels the paradigm shifting under his feet. His enemy is no longer a voice in the ether. His enemy is learning to write in a language he cannot hear. The hunt has moved from the auditory spectrum to the visible one. And Vogt, for the first time, feels the disorientation of a man searching for a black cat in a dark room. He knows the cat is there. He can sense its presence. But the tools in his hands are designed to hear it purr. The proof of concept arrives not with a bang, but with a beam of light. It begins with a failure of the old world. A partisan supply drop, coordinated via a courier chain from outside the city, goes catastrophically wrong. The designated field, a frozen patch of waste ground near the docks, is bathed in unexpected moonlight from a break in the clouds. German patrols are everywhere. The partisans, hidden in the skeletal remains of a warehouse, watch their window of opportunity close. They have no radio to call it off. The plane will come, the supplies will fall, and the Germans will be waiting. It is a death sentence. Maria learns of the crisis from a breathless runner. She reports to Guriev in the optical apartment. His face, illuminated by the cold geometry of light lines on the floor, shows no emotion. He asks for 2 pieces of information: the exact coordinates of the field and the location of the nearest German patrol garrison, with a clear eastern view. This is the first test of his symphony. He sends Yuri into the city's arteries. His mission is not to warn anyone. It is to alter the city's face, note by note. First, on a roof, 2 kilometers from the field, Yuri removes a specific piece of tarpaulin, covering a broken skylight. This exposes a raw, dark square that from the air in the moonlight will look like a landmark. A black note on a gray score. Second, he moves to a bombed-out church belfry. Using a length of black thread from Gurriev's kit, he gently ties back a loose, swinging cable that has been scraping against a piece of corrugated iron. The meaningless, wind-driven clanging stops. The silence itself becomes a signal to a ground observer listening for its absence. Third, and most critical, he approaches the German garrison building. It is a former school, its top-floor windows boarded. One board, on the eastern side, has a single, almost invisible hole drilled through it. From inside, it allows a sliver of view. From outside, it is nothing. Yuri's job is to insert a narrow, tapered plug of frozen grease into that hole from the outside, blocking it. He does this, his heart hammering against his ribs, as a German sentry paces 20 meters away, his back turned. The action is complete in 3 seconds. A pinprick of light on the FA aid has been extinguished. Maria, at the reader's post, observes the garrison. She has been trained to watch the quality of light, not just the objects. The tiny, star-like point of light from the observation hole vanishes. She signals to Gurriev. Gurriev consults his intricate schematics, a map not of streets, but of lines of sight and luminous relationships. He has not sent a message. He has manipulated the environment to create a specific pattern of shadow and light, of sound and silence, across a vast urban canvas. The partisans in the warehouse have been instructed to watch for this specific pattern. The black square on the roof landmark, the cessation of the clanging, and the state of the garrison's eastern observation point. They see it. They interpret it. The pattern spells one word: abort. Miraculously, the drone of the approaching plane is heard. It circles once, twice. The partisans hold their breath, praying the pilots are also reading this new, silent language. The plane does not drop its cargo. It banks steeply and disappears back into the clouds. The German patrols, lying in wait, find nothing but empty frost. The success is seismic. For Maria, it is a conversion. The abstract theory has saved lives. The city has spoken, and they have learned to listen with their eyes. Her skepticism evaporates, replaced by a fervent, focused intensity. She begins to see the patterns everywhere, anticipating Gurriev's needs, suggesting new vantage points, becoming a true partner in the architecture of silence. For Yuri, it is a rush of potent, terrifying agency. He is no longer just a courier. He is a phantom, a poltergeist, who tweaks reality to send messages. He moves through the city with new arrogance, feeling invisible. In his bunker, Oberstleutnant Vogt is presented with the baffling report. A confirmed partisan supply aircraft made the approach but aborted without dropping anything. No radio intercepts, no signal flares, no observed communication from the ground. It is as if the ground itself told the plane to leave. Vogt is a logical man. He eliminates the impossible. He gathers his analysts. He lays out a map of the city and places markers for every observed anomaly from that night. The reported removal of construction tarpaulin, the stopped noise complaint from the church area, the routine log from the garrison sentry, who noted nothing. Individually, they are trash data, municipal static. But Vogt begins to connect them with red string, not based on radio waves, but on lines of sight. The tarpaulin roof had a clear view of the drop zone. The church was in the acoustic corridor. The garrison had an eastern observation line. The strings form a rough, trembling triangle on the map, a zone of influence, A cold, professional awe washes over him, mixed with acute alarm. He is not facing a new code. He is facing a new medium. The enemy is using the city's physical state as a transmission grid. He orders an immediate, top-priority initiative. He commandeers every civilian and military photograph of the city, from aerial reconnaissance to tourist pre-war snapshots. He creates a new department, build analyse, image analysis. Their task is not to listen, but to stare, to compare yesterday's photograph of a building FA-aid with today's, searching for the minutest difference. A missing brick, a shifted shutter, a fresh stain. He issues a standing order that seems insane to his subordinates. Any minor, non-military alteration to the cityscape, a broken window being boarded up, a pile of rubble being moved, is to be reported and photographed. He is trying to hear the silence by photographing it. He knows now, with chilling certainty, that the ghost is not in the machine. The ghost is the machine. And the machine is Leningrad itself. The hunt has escalated from a technical challenge to an epistemological war. He must now learn to see the world as his enemy sees it, or he will forever be blind to the messages being written on the walls, in light and shadow. The victory of the Light Symphony births a monster. A new kind of eye opens over Leningrad. Oberstleutnant Vogt's Build Analyze department is a temple to obsessive scrutiny. A long, windowless room in the bowels of the headquarters is now lined not with radio receivers, but with light tables. Upon them, thousands of photographs are pinned, sorted by city district, street, and even individual building. Analysts equipped with magnifying loops and rulers move like monks in a scriptorium, comparing images taken days, sometimes hours apart. They are searching for heresies in the visual text of the city, a heresy called change. Vogt understands the core principle now. His enemy is not transmitting, he is editing. Therefore, Vogt must become the guardian of the original manuscript. He establishes a daily ritual. At dawn, a fleet of modified motorcycles with mounted cameras departs on fixed routes, capturing the city in a state of frozen sleep. These snapshots are developed, rushed to the analysts, and compared to the master images from the previous day. The process is monstrous in its scale and tedium. A war fought with tweezers and graph paper. The first success is trivial, yet electrifying. An analyst flags a discrepancy on the roof of a residential building on Gorokovaya Street. In yesterday's photograph, a shattered chimney pot lies on its side. In today's, the pot has been subtly shifted to a vertical position, its broken mouth now pointing like a crude cannon towards the river. It could be the wind. It could be a scavenger. But to Vogt's newly tuned perception, it screams intention. He dispatches a plainclothes team. They find nothing but the chimney pot. No people, no radio, no leaflets. But the building has a direct, unobstructed line of sight to a minor German fuel depot. Vogt does not arrest anyone. He has the entire building quietly, methodically placed under permanent visual surveillance from 3 concealed observation posts. He is no longer hunting for the rat. He is mapping the holes. For Gurev's cell, the change in atmosphere is immediate and palpable. The city, their canvas, begins to feel like a cage under a microscope. Yuri, on a routine run to adjust the angle of a reflective shard on a warehouse gable, experiences a sudden, primal chill. He looks down into the street. A man in a gray coat is standing perfectly still, not walking, not talking, just staring up at the roof lines with unnerving intensity. The man's hand is in his pocket. He is not looking at Yuri. He is looking at the architecture around Yuri. Yuri aborts the mission, retreating with the cold sweat of prey who has sensed the predator's new hunting method. Maria, at her observation post, makes a more concrete discovery. She notices a pattern of routine German activity that has nothing to do with patrols. A nondescript van parks for exactly 15 minutes at the same spot every morning on a distant embankment. Its side faces a crucial intersection of their light lines. One day, through her powerful scope, she sees a brief, telltale glint from the van's side, the sun catching the lens of a camera inside. They are not just watching people. They are photographing the scenery. Guriev receives their reports in silence. The apartment is now a command center of a different sort. His schematics are annotated with new data. Zones of suspected photographic coverage, timed patrols of observers, sterile buildings known to be under watch. His system, built on manipulating the visible, is now threatened by an enemy committed to memorizing it. He adapts. The grammar evolves. He introduces the concept of legitimate change. If the enemy is documenting alterations, then they must drown in a sea of meaningless alterations. He tasks Yuri with a new, dangerous duty, becoming a one-man wave of urban decay. Yuri must now not only set signals, but also create noise. He subtly kicks loose piles of bricks. He unlatches shutters so the wind will bang them. He smudges soot patterns on walls in random ways. Each action is a false positive, a red herring for the photo analysts, forcing them to waste hours investigating meaningless vandalism. The most brilliant and risky adaptation is the living signal. Guriev identifies a handful of utterly benign, non-aligned city residents. A bent old woman who airs her bedding on her balcony at 11 a.m., a street sweeper who piles his debris in a particular corner, a drunkard who sleeps in the same doorway. Their routines become involuntary carriers of information. The absence of the bedding, the change in the debris pile's shape, the drunkard sleeping one doorway over, these become coded signals. The Germans can photograph all they want, but they cannot discern intention in the mundane rhythms of a starving city's survival. The signal hides in plain sight, camouflaged as life itself. The tension escalates to a silent, citywide duel. Yuri, creating a noise event by scattering some trash near a monitored bridge, sees a man across the street immediately begin to write in a notebook. The watchers are everywhere. Maria, reading the living signal of the old woman's missing bedding, meaning danger on main route, feels a terrifying power and vulnerability. They are using human beings as unwitting components in their machine. Vogt, in his analysis temple, feels the fog returning. The report volume explodes. Hundreds of minor alterations flood in daily. A shifted shutter here, a new stain there. His analysts are overwhelmed, their eyes glazing over. The clear signal of the pointed chimney pot is lost in a cacophony of visual static. He knows, intellectually, that this is the enemy's doing, a countermeasure. But the sheer brute force banality of it is frustrating. He is in an arms race of petty vandalism. He makes a decisive, aggressive move. He can no longer just observe. He must provoke. He orders a series of controlled surgical alterations of his own. A team, under cover of darkness, paints over a specific faded advertisement on a wall that has been in the background of many photographs. They board up a specific window that has been broken since September. They are no longer just reading the city's text. They are editing it. They are asking a question in this new silent language. Do you see this? Will you respond? The city has become a chessboard where both sides are now moving the scenery, waiting for the other to flinch. The war has left the world of sound and light and entered the realm of perception itself. Every brick, every shadow, every mundane human gesture is now a potential lie, a signal, or a trap. The silence between Guriev and Vogt is no longer empty. It is thick, charged, and filled with the invisible, screaming tension of two masters trying to outthink each other in a language they are inventing and deciphering in real time. Arrogance is a silent killer. It does not shout. It whispers in the ear of a young man who has learned to make the city dance. Yuri's transformation from terrified courier to ghostly stagehand is complete. He moves through the ruins with a newfound fluidity, a contempt for the German watchers who stare at bricks and miss the ballet. Guriev's warnings are a dry, technical manual in his mind, but the adrenaline of action is a louder, more compelling voice. He begins to see himself not just as a setter of signals, but as an artist. He takes pride in the elegance of his placements, the cleverness of his noise operations. He starts to embellish. The fault line begins with a simple, critical mission. A high-ranking partisan commander is pinned in a safe house in the Petrogradskaya district. The escape route is compromised. Guriev devises a complex, multi-point light signal to guide him through a back-alley labyrinth to a new extraction point. The signal involves 4 sequential alterations: a lamp in a specific window extinguished, a red cloth removed from a fence, a specific manhole cover left slightly ajar, and finally, the orientation of a weather vane on a distant church steeple. Yuri is tasked with the first 3. The 4th, the weather vane, is to be handled by a sleeper agent, an old clockmaker with access to the church roof. Guriev stresses the sequence and the timing. They are a single sentence. Change the order, and it becomes gibberish. Yuri executes the first 3 tasks with theatrical precision. He feels the eyes of the city upon him, not with fear, but with a performer's pride. He reaches the extraction zone early. He sees the partisan commander and his 2 men, shadows pressed into a doorway, waiting for the final sign, the weather vane, swinging to the east. Minutes tick by. The weather vane does not move. Yuri's mind races. The sleeper agent must have been compromised. The plan is failing. The commander's life is in the balance. He remembers the weather vane's mechanism, a simple, rusty pivot. An idea, brilliant and catastrophic, blooms in his mind. He can fix it. He can complete the sentence himself. He knows the church is under light German observation, but he has dodged watchers for weeks. He believes in his own invisibility. He breaks protocol. He leaves his assigned zone. He scales a drainage pipe, crosses a perilous roofscape, and reaches the base of the steeple. The old clockmaker is nowhere to be seen. Yuri's fingers close around the cold iron of the weather vane. He pushes. It groans, stiff with ice, then swings ponderously to point east. In that moment, on a nearby rooftop, a German Bildanalyse observer does not see a young man. He sees an anomaly. His job is not to follow people, but to note changes in the scenery. The weather vane's movement is a glaring, unscheduled edit to the skyline. He raises his binoculars. He sees Yuri descending the pipe. For the first time, the abstract, frustrating theory of the visual agent has a face, a body, a pair of scrambling hands. The observer does not raise an alarm. He picks up a field telephone and speaks a single coded phrase. Yuri feels a surge of triumph as he returns to the extraction point. He sees the partisan commander, seeing the aligned weather vane, Signal his men to move. They slip into the sewer grate and vanish. The mission is a success. Yuri's arrogance hardens into certainty. He has saved the operation. He has improved upon Guriev's rigid system with his own initiative. He does not notice the two plainclothes men who fall into step behind him, not as hunters, but as silent shadows. They follow him not to his home, but to his next scheduled touchpoint, a dead drop signal site near the summer garden. They watch as he kneels, pretending to tie his shoe, and uses a magnet to retrieve a tiny message capsule from a crack in an iron park bench. The capture, when it comes, is swift, clinical, and utterly silent. A cloth soaked in chloroform, a bundled body into an unmarked van. No shot, no cry. The void he leaves behind is not immediately apparent. Maria, at her post, feels a tremor of unease when Yuri misses a scheduled check-in by 1 hour, then 2. Guriev's face becomes a mask of granite. He knows. The system's greatest vulnerability was never technical. It was biological. It was the human element, the unpredictable spark of ego and fear. In the bowels of the German headquarters, Yuri awakens to a different kind of science. This is not Vogt's sterile world of photographs and lenses. This is the wet, dark world of pressure and pain. The interrogators are not analysts. They are craftsmen of despair. They do not ask about radio frequencies. They ask about bricks, about shadows, about weather vanes. Yuri, in his shattered state, tries to hold to the story Guriev drilled into him. He is a scavenger, a thief, a nobody. But his knowledge betrays him. He knows the specific names of locations that have no strategic value. He can describe the exact pattern of soot on a specific chimney. He breaks not under questions about transmitters, but under a relentless, bizarre inquiry about the visual texture of the city. He gives them the location of the park bench dead drop. He describes the optical apartment's view, though not its address. He babbles about light lines and noise operations, concepts he only half understands, giving the Germans the poetry of the system without its precise grammar. Vogt watches the interrogation transcript with a scholar's intensity. He now has fragments of the lexicon. Words like light line, noise, living signal. They confirm his wildest theories and illuminate the terrifying sophistication of the system. But the information is maddeningly abstract. It is like having a page of a dictionary for a language whose rules he does not know. Using Yuri's fragmented confessions, Vogt orchestrates a masterpiece of counter-deception. He does not raid the park bench. He tampers with it. He has his men place a false message capsule in the crack, a lure. Then he saturates the entire summer garden with hidden cameras and watchers. He is no longer hunting for a radio operator. He is fishing for a reader of the city's face. Maria, driven by fear for Yuri, insists on checking the dead drop. Guriev forbids it. He knows it is a trap. He can feel the change in the city's pressure, a new focal point of hostile attention around the garden. But Maria is no longer just an operative. Yuri was her responsibility, her almost brother in this silent war. Against Guriev's cold logic, she acts. She approaches the park bench with a predator's hyper-awareness. She sees the watchers. She feels the artificial stillness in the air. She walks past the bench without stopping, her heart a drum in her throat. She has seen enough. The trap is confirmed. But as she melts into a side street, a different watcher, one trained in facial recognition from 1,000 confiscated pre-war photos, marks her. She is not just a woman walking. She is Maria Lavina, former librarian, known to have associated with suspected dissidents. The net, thrown wide for a ghost, has caught a name. The chapter closes on two forms of ruin. In a cold cell, Yuri, broken and used, finally understands the true cost of his artistry. He was not a player in the game. He was a key that, once turned, has unlocked a door for the enemy. His arrogance has been refined into pure, obliterating shame. And in the optical apartment, Guriev watches Maria return. He reads the truth on her face. They have lost more than a comrade. They have lost the initiative. The Germans are no longer just observing. They are now actively writing in the same silent language, laying traps with its own grammar. The sanctuary of the visible world has been violated. The city is no longer just their canvas. It is now also a minefield, and the first terrible explosion has just torn through the heart of their cell. The silence is over. It has been replaced by the echoing aftershock of a single, fatal mistake. Retreat is a calculus, not a surrender. Guriev's mind, under the immense pressure of the collapse, does not shatter. It accelerates, moving from the intricate grammar of light to the brutal algebra of survival. The optical apartment is no longer a sanctuary. Its panoramic view is now a liability, a stage under a hostile spotlight. He knows the Germans have a name, a face, and fragments of their method. The hunt has shifted from a theoretical puzzle to a physical dragnet. He executes the evacuation with the cold precision of a surgeon amputating a limb. Every tool, every schematic, every piece of evidence that cannot be carried is systematically destroyed. The carefully drilled holes in the window boards are filled with a paste of dirt and glue. The light lines on the floor are scuffed into oblivion. The apartment must return to being a meaningless, frozen shell. He leaves behind one thing, a subtle, deliberate flaw. A single hair-thin thread from his kit is caught in a splinter of the floorboard near the door. It is not a mistake. It is a message to the hunters, who will inevitably come. I was here. I knew you would come. And I am gone. Their new base is the negative image of the last. Not high with a commanding view, but low and blind. A flooded basement, in a derelict bathhouse, the air thick with the smell of stagnant water and rot. The only light comes from a single heavily filtered candle. Here, Guriev is not a conductor of light. He is a creature of the deep, planning in the absolute dark. Maria is a changed woman. The guilt over Yuri and the close brush at the summer garden have burned away her last traces of doubt, replacing them with a cold, flinty resolve. She is no longer just the reader. She is now a co-architect of their last stand. They communicate in whispers, their faces hovering over a simplified map drawn in charcoal on a piece of tarpaulin. The elegant network of light lines is gone, scorched away by necessity. What remains is the core, ugly truth. They must deliver one final, critical piece of intelligence to the center. German forces are preparing a massive, final assault to crush the last pockets of organized resistance in the city's industrial quarter. The operation, codenamed Eisvogel, is set to begin in 72 hours. The data, troop concentrations, artillery positions, attack vectors, is in Guriev's head. It is too complex, too vast, for any remaining dead drop or living signal. The problem is absolute. Every known channel is compromised or too slow. The Germans are on high alert, their visual and human surveillance at its peak. Sending a runner through the lines is suicide and would take days they do not have. They are trapped in a silent city, holding a scream that could save thousands with no mouth to utter it. Guriev stares at the candle flame until his eyes water. He is not looking at the light. He is looking at the shadow it casts on the damp wall behind it, a distorted giant silhouette of his own head. The principle reverses in his mind. For weeks, they have used the city to send signals. Now they must use the enemy's own surveillance apparatus as the transmitter. He lays out the insane, breathtaking gamble. They will not hide the message. They will display it. Not for a friendly reader, but for the countless, relentless German eyes and cameras. They will create a sequence of events so bizarre, so visually striking and logically connected, that it will be impossible for the German machine not to see it, document it, and report it up the chain of command. The message is not in the events themselves, but in the pattern of the events. They will hack the German observation system, turning their own obsessive scrutiny against them. The plan, dubbed Zerkalo, mirror, is a symphony in 3 deliberate public movements to be performed across the city in a precise 6-hour window. Movement 1, the marker. They will commandeer a German resource. Using stolen uniforms and forged paperwork, they will trigger a non-existent sanitary inspection at a specific bread factory adjacent to the main German artillery park. The goal is not sabotage, but to force a specific, documented event at a precise location, location alpha, at time 0. The factory's chimney, by coincidence, will begin belching abnormal black smoke at the inspection start, creating a visible, reportable landmark in the sky. Movement 2. The pattern. Simultaneously at 3 other key locations linked to Eisvogel logistics, Guriev. Maria! Movement 3. The vector. The final act belongs to Guriev alone. At the exact moment the factory smoke begins and the other events trigger, he will position himself at a pre-scouted, highly visible public location, a certain bridge with long sight lines. His actions will be those of a madman or a signalman. He will fly a large makeshift kite made from a stolen map. The map itself is blank, but its shape is a precise, scaled outline of the industrial quarter. He will then, in clear view of any observer, proceed to mark 3 specific points on the kite map with brilliant red dye from a ruptured flare canister before releasing it into the wind. The 3 points correspond exactly to the 3 locations of the disturbances. The sequence, factory smoke, alpha, 3 synchronized disruptions, beta, gamma, delta, followed by a man publicly marking a map at those same points, is the message. It screams coordination and intent. The brilliance and the madness of Zerkalo is that no single German guard or analyst will understand it. But the data, the factory inspection report, the smoke observation, the sabotage reports from 3 districts, the field report of a lunatic with a map on a bridge, will all converge on different desks within the German military bureaucracy throughout the day. It is designed to land, last, on the desk of one man, Oberstleutnant Vogt, the only man obsessed enough and with access to the full picture to piece the puzzle together. Maria understands the horrific beauty of it. They are not sending a message. They are creating a ghost in the German machine, a haunting that will manifest as a classified intelligence report on Vogt's desk. They are betting his brilliant, analytical mind will be the final, unwitting courier for their warning. The preparation is a furious, silent blur in the dripping basement. They assemble the kite, the chemical triggers, the stolen uniforms. They brief their last two contacts, whose faces are etched with the solemnity of men attending their own funeral. There is no room for error. The timing is everything. They must become conductors of chaos, choreographing a spectacle whose true audience is a single enemy officer's deduction. As they make final preparations, the candle gutters. In the near darkness, Guriev looks at Maria. There is no speech, no reassurance. There is only a grim, absolute acknowledgement. This is the final movement of their silent war. They will not transmit. They will not whisper. They will stage a public, city-wide performance whose true meaning will be a bomb ticking in the mind of their greatest foe. The gamble is all or nothing. They will either save the city or die as its most bizarre and inexplicable vandals. Dawn on the day of execution arrives not with hope, but with a frozen, surgical calm. The city is a patient on a table, and Guriev is the surgeon holding a blade of chaos. Every minute is a measured step in a dance with annihilation. Maria, transformed into a phantom of efficiency, moves to her position near the bread factory. Her stolen uniform itches against her skin, the forged papers in her pocket feeling like a live grenade. She is no longer Maria the librarian, the reader of shadows. She is a trigger mechanism. Her role is to present the paperwork at exactly 10 a.m., initiating the fake inspection, the first domino in their impossible chain. She watches the factory gate, her eyes tracking the slow march of the German guard. Her heartbeat is a metronome in the silence of her mind. Across the city, in the 3 designated zones, the last loyal remnants of the network take their places. An old electrician with trembling hands positions himself within sight of the fuel depot, a modified fire extinguisher hidden in a sack at his feet. A teenage girl, her face pale with terror, loiters near the officer's quarters, a slingshot and ball bearings heavy in her coat pocket. A stoic dock worker stands watch over a storm drain near a vehicle park, his foot resting lightly on a concealed wire. They are not soldiers. They are human timers, their nerves the fuses. Guriev stands in a derelict clock tower overlooking his bridge. The makeshift kite, its blank map surface taut and ominous, lies at his feet. Next to it, the modified flare canister, its pin pulled halfway. His vantage point allows him a sliver view of the factory chimney 2 miles away. He checks his watch, a precision instrument synchronized against the city's main clock before its destruction. His world narrows to the sweep of its second hand. There is no plan B. There is only the sequence. At Aero 958, the tension becomes a physical thing, a wire pulled taut across the entire city district. Maria steps out of the shadows and approaches the factory guard. Her voice when she speaks is a flat, authoritative monotone, reciting the bureaucratic nonsense Guriev concocted. The guard, bored and cold, glances at the papers. He nods, waving her and her 2 colleagues, other network members in stolen coats, inside. The first domino falls. Precisely at 10 Mass, as per the inspection order, a worker is bribed to alter the furnace mixture. A thick rolling column of unnatural black smoke begins to pour from the factory chimney, a dirty ink stroke on the pale winter sky. Location Alpha is marked, the signal is seen. In the fuel depot, the old electrician sees the smoke. His hands stop trembling. He kicks the sack, triggering the chemical mixture. A geyser of vibrant, emerald green smoke erupts silently from a hidden vent. billowing into the air for exactly 45 seconds before the reactants exhaust themselves. It is a stunning, inexplicable event. German soldiers shout, "Point, scramble." Cameras from a nearby observation post whir. Event beta is recorded. Near the officers' quarters, the teenage girl sees the green smoke in the distance. She takes a deep, shuddering breath, raises the slingshot, and in 3 swift, fluid motions, shatters the glass globes of 3 consecutive streetlights. The synchronized pop, pop, pop is like firecrackers. Guards spin, searching for a shooter. She melts into a courtyard, leaving behind a scene of deliberate, synchronized vandalism. Event Gamma is logged. At the vehicle park, the dock worker sees the lights go out down the street. He stamps his foot down on the wire. Beneath a parked truck, a small charge of flash powder stolen from a photographer's studio ignites. There is no explosion, only a blinding, silent white flash and a puff of smoke curling from the undercarriage. Soldiers dive for cover, convinced it is a mine. Event Delta is reported as attempted sabotage. In his clock tower, Guriev watches the horizon. He sees the black smoke. He imagines the green plume, the startled reports of broken lights and flashes traveling through the German communications net like a virus. He checks his watch. 10:07. The pattern is set. Now, the vector. He descends to the bridge. It is a broad, open span, a place with no cover, exposed from every angle. He is utterly vulnerable. He walks to the exact center, the kite under his arm. He feels the eyes on him, not the abstract photographic eyes of the Bildanalyse, but the real human eyes of sentries, snipers, patrols. He ignores them. He is an actor on the final stage. With deliberate, almost ritualistic slowness, he assembles the kite. The wind off the Neva catches it immediately. It jerks and strains, the blank map of the industrial quarter snapping taut against the gray sky. It is a bizarre, shocking sight. A man, flying a map-shaped kite in the middle of a besieged, starving city. Reports are already being radioed in. Then he raises the flare canister. He aims it not at the sky, but at the face of the kite. He pulls the pin. A jet of brilliant, blood-red dye streaks across the kite's surface. He fires 3 short bursts. Sput, sput, sput. 3 perfect red circles bloom on the kite map. Their positions, to anyone who has just received the disturbance reports, are damning. 1 corresponding to the bread factory sector, 1 to the fuel depot, 1 to the officers' quarters. The correlation is the message. A German sergeant on the bridge, initially baffled, now sees a madman defacing a map at the scene of multiple incidents. He shouts an order. Soldiers raise their rifles. Guriev does not run. He looks at the marked kite, a final satisfied glance. Then he opens his hand. The wind screams. It tears the kite from his grasp. It whips up, a tumbling, red-stained ghost cartwheeling over the river, a final indelible image against the clouds before it plummets into the icy water. The spectacle is complete. Guriev turns, his hands raised slowly. He is surrounded. The capture is violent and fast. He offers no resistance. His work is done. In his bunker, Oberstleutnant Vogt is a man besieged by chaos. The reports flood in, a cacophony of the bizarre, a factory smoke violation, a colored chemical release at a fuel depot, coordinated light sabotage, a flash under a vehicle. And now the crown jewel of insanity. A man apprehended on the Lieutenant Schmidt Bridge for flying a marked map kite. The individual incidents are trivial, annoyances, but they arrived in a tight 20-minute window. And now this map. Vogt stands before his giant situation map. He pins the locations: factory, depot, quarters, vehicle park. They form a rough cluster around the industrial quarter. He then reads the field report from the bridge. The arresting sergeant included a crude sketch of the kite, noting the 3 red marks. Vogt takes 3 red pins from his tray. His hand hesitates over the map. He moves not to the exact sites of the incidents, but to their broader operational sectors. He pushes the pins into the map. They land directly over the primary artillery emplacements, the main fuel reserve, and the command post for Operation Eisvogel. The breath leaves Vogt's body in a silent rush. The room seems to tilt. He is not looking at a series of random acts of vandalism. He is looking at a diagram, a deliberate, brazen, and impossibly public diagram of his own secret operation. The factory smoke was the marker. The disturbances were the coordinates. The map was the legend. It is not a message sent. It is a message displayed for him and his entire apparatus to see. The ghost did not whisper in the static. It painted its warning on the walls of the city in smoke, colored gas, broken glass, and a child's kite. A profound, icy horror, mixed with a tremor of unwilling admiration, floods him. His enemy has achieved the ultimate subversion. He has used the German military's own obsessive surveillance and bureaucratic reporting as his telegraph wire. The data is now in Vogt's hands. The warning is clear. Eisvogel is compromised. Vogt sinks into his chair. He stares at the red pins on his map. He has captured the phantom. But the phantom's final brilliant stroke has already escaped, has already infected the machine. The silence is finally broken, not by a radio wave, but by the deafening, reverberating clang of a trap he himself has sprung. He must now decide: proceed with the attack, knowing the enemy is prepared, or abort, validating the ghost's insane, spectacular victory. The war is no longer on the streets or in the ether. It is inside his own head. The cell they throw Guriev into is not meant for interrogation. It is a holding pen of pure, sensory deprivation. Thick stone walls, a solid iron door, no window, no light source except a sliver of pale glare from a high, barred slot in the corridor. They have taken his clothes, his watch, every physical token of his identity. He sits on the frozen concrete floor, naked but for his undergarments, his body already trembling with the deep cold. This is not torture. This is erasure. They are reducing him to a biological specimen, stripping away the context of the man who orchestrated the symphony on the bridge. Yet in this absolute void, his mind is more alive than ever. He does not think of escape, or pain, or even death. He reconstructs the sequence in his mind's eye. The black smoke, the green plume, the popping lights, the flash, the kite ascending. He visualizes the reports traveling through the German bureaucracy like blood cells through a sluggish vein, converging on the analytical brain of Oberstleutnant Vogt. The plan is a self-contained organism now, released into the wild. Its survival is no longer in his hands. His final act was one of pure faith. Faith in Vogt's intelligence, his obsession, his inability to ignore a pattern of such brazen clarity. Hours pass, marked only by the slowing of his own metabolism. The cold is a rat gnawing at his bones. He focuses on the sliver of light from the corridor. He calculates its angle, its intensity, its rate of change. Even here, in this null space, he is reading the environment. It is who he is. The door groans open. 2 hulking guards drag him out, not to an interrogation room, but to a stark, white-tiled shower room. Freezing water blasts him, shocking his system. They throw a rough gray prison uniform at him. The fabric is stiff and stinks of lye. They do not speak. They march him, barefoot on icy stone, through a labyrinth of corridors. The destination is not a cell block. It is an office. Oberstleutnant Vogt's office is a study in severe order. A vast map of Leningrad dominates one wall, now clean of red pins. The Bild-Analyze photographs are gone. The room feels like a stage after the play has ended. Vogt stands by the window, his back to the door, looking out at the bruised twilight of the city he has tried and failed to silence. He does not turn as Guriev is forced into a hard wooden chair. The guards leave. The silence in the room is monumental. It is not the silence of absence, but of a confrontation that has transcended words. Vogt finally turns. He looks at Guriev not with hatred, not with triumph, but with the exhausted professional scrutiny of a chess master, facing the opponent who has just forced a stalemate with a move he never anticipated. He holds no dossier, no torture implements. In his hand is a single grainy photograph. He places it on the desk in front of Guriev. It is an aerial reconnaissance image of the industrial quarter. 3 small red circles have been inked onto it. The circles match the positions of the red dye on the kite. Vogt speaks, his voice a dry, quiet scrape in the stillness. He does not ask for names, for codes, for networks. He asks a single question, a question that has been burning in his mind since the reports converged on his desk. Why the kite? You had achieved the sequence. The correlation was established. Why give us the map? It was a final, unnecessary risk. Theatrical. Guriev looks at the photograph. He understands that Vogt has already pieced it all together. The question is not operational. It is philosophical. It is the final move in their game. Guriev's voice, when it comes, is hoarse from cold and disuse, but utterly calm. He tells Vogt that a signal, to be believed, must have a signature. Noise can be coincidence. A pattern can be paranoia. But a man on a bridge marking a map in the open, that is a signature. That is a message from a mind to a mind. It was not for the sergeants or the analysts. It was for you. You needed to know it was deliberate. You needed to know it was for you. Vogt absorbs this. A flicker in his eye. Not anger, but understanding. He has been addressed directly across the battlefield. His enemy has looked him in the eye through the medium of chaos. He walks to his map. He informs Guriev in the same flat tone that Operation Eisvogel has been postponed indefinitely. Reinforcements have been diverted. The assault will not happen. The warning has been received. He then adds, almost as an afterthought, that the partisan commander from Petrogradskaya escaped. The sleeper agent, the clockmaker, was discovered and executed. A life for a life. The calculus of their war. Guriev shows no reaction. The victory is ash in his mouth, but it is victory nonetheless. The city, or a part of it, will live. Vogt continues. He states that Guriev's method is a dead end. It has been exposed. The Bild-Analyze will be expanded, algorithms for visual anomaly detection will be developed. This poetry of shadows will not work a second time. They will learn to see it. Guriev nods slowly. He knows this. A weapon, once revealed, loses its power. He was not building a permanent weapon. He was sending one message. Vogt finally sits behind his desk. The interrogation is over before it began. He has what he needs, confirmation of his own deduction. He tells Guriev that he will not be shot as a spy. He will be processed as a prisoner of war. A nameless, faceless number in the system. The legend of the mute radio operator will be buried. Vogt will file a report citing intercepted low-power radio fragments and human intelligence for the cancellation of Eisvogel. The truth is too dangerous, too subversive to official history. It must be erased. Guriev is dragged back to the darkness, but not to the sensory deprivation cell, to a crowded, stinking communal cell deep in the prison. He is just another body among dozens. Weeks later, on a gray morning, the prisoners are loaded onto a cattle train. The war grinds on elsewhere. Guriev finds a space by a small barred opening. The train lurches forward, leaving Leningrad behind. As the city's scarred silhouette recedes, Guriev's eyes, pale and weary, perform one last act of observation. He watches the rooftops, and there, on a gutted building near the rail line, he sees it. A flash. A brief, brilliant reflection of the weak sun from a piece of glass. It is not random. It is a specific rhythmic pattern. 3 short flashes. 3 long, 3 short. An old universal signal. SOS. It is not for him. It is proof of concept. Maria, or someone she taught, is still out there. The grammar of light has survived. It has been passed on. They have stopped listening and started watching. The silence he weaponized has become a language others are now learning to speak. The train carries him into the bleak winter landscape. He is a prisoner, his body captive. But as he closes his eyes, the after-image of the flashing light remains burned on his retina. A single pulsing beacon in the dark. They had tried to make him a mute radio operator. But in the end, he had not been a radio at all. He had been the first note of a new kind of song, a song written in light and shadow, and the echo of that note was now traveling through the ruins, finding new voices. The war of noise had ended for him. The long, silent resonance had just begun.